And what you can do, these are, your kit that you got has 100 feet of drip line. So what I do is to use two 50-foot pieces because my beds are about 50 feet long. Of course, you can do more than that if you want to. And that's why if you're going to do more than two for each kit, then you need a feeder line that you can spread it out and then put it. I'll show you how to do that, but I don't have a feeder line with this. But the most important thing on the end of your drip line is to fold it 3 folds and try to crimp it as tight as you can. This one's of course already been folded, and that means you can make this thing as short or as long as you want to. You know, if you want a 25-foot one, that's fine. You want a 50-foot one, or if you want a 100-foot one long, you could do just the whole one. But at the end of it, the far end away from your barrel or your bucket, you need to somehow seal it off. Otherwise, you're going to have all the water going out this open end, and you don't want that. So what I do is crimp it over as much as I can, and it works better in warm weather. I cut a little piece of that drip line off before I start, and then if I can kind of make a U out of it, then I can slip this right over it. Now it looks easy because I just took it off and it's already been on there, but it's not that easy, especially if this stuff is stiff. So the hotter it is, the better it works. You know, in July, you know, when you really need to water it. So you want to scoot it over there and you want to push it all the way up as far as you can. And I just set some new ones in my garden a few days ago, and I had to tussle to get that little piece on there. So don't give up. It will go. You know, it won't fit on there. Now, once you do this, you know, that will be at the far end away from your water source. So why don't I ask somebody to grab a hold of that end and head down that way. Now you want to lay it with the slits up, and the slits are always on the side that has the little groove in it. If you'll look, and you may have to wipe some dirt off, but every 1 foot on here there's going to be a slit. If I got one of your new kits out, you can see them a lot better. So
the instructions do tell you.
Yeah, the instructions tell you that. But here's a clean spot. Let's see if we can find the slit, and your eyes are better than mine. I'm sure to see it. But it should be, let's see.
And you slide it on there to seal it.
It should be right in this area somewhere. Maybe where the dirt is. Anyway, it's got a slit in it because it came right out of my garden. Okay, so be sure you keep it flat enough that you got the same side up all the way. Of course, you can, once you get it connected and everything, you can go and adjust it and hold it. Okay, that's about right. Now, what I want to do on the other end, which is open, well, keep going a little bit more. I guess I didn't see this that was back here at the back. Okay, in your kit that you got, okay, this is the upside now. See the ridge? That's always going to be the upside where the slits are. Everybody kind of wants to put the slits down so the water will go down in the ground, but it comes near stopping up that way. So be sure your slits are up. So on the other end, you want to open it up like this. Now, your kit. Your kit will have one section of, I think this is 1/4 inch line, and it will have 2 of these little units like this. Of course, they're not going to be on there, so you'll have to add this on good. They don't just fall off easy. I guess it's because this has been on there for a long time. But it has a little barb on the end of it. So this is your feeder line that comes from your bucket or whatever you're going to use for your water source. So you just pop that on there, and then this is the kind of fun part. This little collar.
What did you pop it on?
It's on this little barb.
Okay.
I call it a barb. I think that's, somebody can look at the terminology. I've got my own terms. I don't always use what Mr. Chapin did. Now be sure this little section is pushed all the way back, rotated all the way back. So you can stick this into that open end of that drip line. So you want to be sure and get it on all the way up as far as you can. Again, when it's warm, it works a lot better. You want it to kind of go up inside this collar And then once you get it up in there, what you do is hold on to these pieces right here, and you're going to turn it whichever way it'll go. It's counterclockwise. I always want to turn things clockwise like a screw does. You want to turn it and tighten it up as much as you can. And what this is doing is squeezing on this drip line, so hopefully you don't get a leak. Now, I set up some the other day, and once I started putting water through, I got some seepage right here. So what I had to do is take it back off and scoot it up a little tighter. And that time I got me some pliers and twisted it a little harder than I could with my hands like that. But if it's warm, you can probably twist it good enough with your hands like that. Now, we're going to have some water coming in. So in your kit, let's see, where's that? The bucket here. If you're going to use a bucket like this, you're going to have to drill a hole in the bottom of it. And you're going to have to build you a stand of some sort to put it on, so that the bottom of that bucket is about 3 feet above the ground. That's about, that'd be pretty close to 3 feet right there. We tell them 1 meter because most other countries use metric system. We're the oddities. Now, in your kit, you have this little unit right here. It's a 2-piece section, and this goes in from the bottom into your bucket, and then this screws in on top. And you'll notice that there's almost an inch of height above there. And that's good because that keeps sediment from going down through here. So I'd want to stick this into the bottom, and of course you need to get your hole drilled so that it fits in pretty tight, but you do have a rubber ring that will kind of help keep it from leaking as well. Actually, once this is screwed together, that rubber ring will take care of most leaks like that you can have. Okay, so we'll just assume that we've put this in here and we've screwed this thing down. Now, the next thing that you have...
Now, how big is the bucket?
Just a 5-gallon.
It really doesn't matter. We're going to go from here to there, and you can use anything in between. Of course, that one, you don't want all that much water running into your drip lines at one time. This one, what I do is fill it up twice a day, morning and evening. And that takes care of a 50-foot bed that's about this wide on top. You can grow a lot of stuff on that kind of space.
Now, couldn't you technically just hook it up to a spigot?
No.
No.
Okay, why?
Too much pressure.
Yeah, water coming out of here is under only gravity pressure. That's a good question. Now that would
not even real low.
Not even real low, because you only want it to go out as fast as gravity would make it go. Because you're not going to be able to regulate that pressure, because if you just say it's not going out there at exactly the same pressure that you're putting it in, it'll blow that hose out.
But
so
what you could do is set up like a float system where you've got coming from a faucet to fill up your barrel.
Yeah.
But still the drip system's coming out of the barrel.
Right.
Gravity feed.
Only with the gravity from there.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And I did that. I think I told you when we had a brief time to talk about this that I had a garden on the other side of town out at Milton. My son had land out there, so I put a garden in. I didn't want to drive out to Milton every day. That's a 30-minute drive from where I live, just real close to here. So I set a barrel up like this and put a timer on the faucet that turned it on twice a day, and put about 25 gallons of water in it. And then by the 30 minutes, it'd all run out. But I had several lines going out from that one. Yeah.
I wanted to ask about the line. When the water goes in it, are there more holes at the end than there are at the beginning, or
they are spaced 1 foot. They're spaced 1 foot apart. Now that's a good question. Everybody thinks, well, they're going to run out here before they run out down there. But if you could see the inside of this thing, it's a 2-layered tape, and actually water kind of runs all the way down through that bottom area, and then starts coming backwards, and that's when it seeps out the slits.
So it's not under pressure. It's not really the pressure.
That's right. So it's amazing. Mr. Chapin developed that, and he made it really cheap so that you know, third world cultures could afford to get them. And of course, when we go, we give them away to people who have taken the class, and they can, you know, grow from there. Okay, here's our other part that is going to fit into here. So once we get that in the bucket, we just stick this stopper in the bottom of it. Of course, it's going to be sitting down like that. And we plug in one of those lines into this hole and the other line into the other hole.
And then bingo.
Okay, so now you just have to have like a whole 50-foot window? Can
No.
you not?
No, you can have a
You
flat
can
one.
have
Up
any
to
length you
2 or
want.
3?
You can,
Okay.
now, you know,
You want to
50,
have more than,
you have a 100-foot roll of that drip tape in your
Right.
kit.
can you swirl it around like this, or does it have
You
to
can,
be
yeah,
straight?
as long as it doesn't have a kink like
Kink
your
in it,
water hose
right,
where it won't
Yeah,
go through at
okay,
all.
Cool.
Okay,
So
so
you have
that
to
kind
go
of
up
shows
and down your-
the inside of it here. Now, I'm going to show you how we can modify and do this same thing with the barrel. But let's see if you have any questions on this part first.
And if you've got multiple, want to do multiple tapes, say for instance I got 7, 8 beds
Yeah.
that I want to do, I could maybe put multiples of those coming out of the same barrel. I just have to fill up the barrel.
Okay, I'll tell you
more
several
or-
ways to do that. From a bucket, for instance, if you were doing it from a bucket like this, what you can do is instead of this line going into the end of one of these lines, there is, and some of you did not get this other piece that does not have slits in it. But that's making it possible where you could put 8, 6, 4, whatever you wanted, drip lines off from that. So what you do is you make this go into, instead of your drip line, into a feeder line, okay? And you can run it across here. And then what you can do is you can punch holes. You've got a little nail in your kit. You can punch holes in that feeder line, and you can stick, this is a 1/4-inch pipe here, but you also have some smaller pipe that can be stuck in to a drip line, so off of the feeder line. So if you want to put forward, and it's all shown in that diagram there.
Okay.
And you know you'd say, well, if I poke a hole in this stuff and come into it with another line off of a feeder line, I'm going to get leaks. But with that low pressure, you don't.
Right.
Because I set one up the other day and I thought, well, I didn't get the hole real good. But one thing you have to do is kind of sharpen the end of this so you can poke it into the little hole that you start. And you may have to work at that for a little bit. But once it goes in there, it kind of is tight enough around it that under low pressure, you're not going to get a leak. Of course, you'd probably put it in, toward the end of this one. Okay, so I'm just showing you kind of a two drip line setup, but you can modify it to make it for usually an even number along the way. Okay, so we've got this set up for a bucket, as you saw. Now let's see what we'll have to do to make this work with a barrel. I had to go to Lowe's or somewhere else, and unfortunately, water hose, water pipe threads are not the same as the pipe threads. I found that out. Now, so I said, I want the same thing as the end of a water hose that can screw onto a faucet. And then I want to make it connected to something that I can plug this stopper into. So we searched around and found some clear plastic. I've forgotten whether this was 1 inch diameter or 1/16, but you might want to take your stopper with you when you go. So we finally found the thing, and he cut off a piece, and he said, here, take it. That's not even enough to measure and charge you for it. So you can also see water coming out. So now, instead of plugging it into the bottom of the bucket, you can plug it into this. So I ran home and got this off of my 350-gallon tank that I have out at my garden now. But that tank is fed from 2 barrels on the back of my house. I showed you pictures of the barrels when we did the very second class, I guess. But then I got that big tank set up. So I just noticed when I ran out and took this off, that tank overnight rain filled it all the way up. So I've got 350 gallons of water sitting out there in my garden right now, up on blocks, ready to use. Of course, we got enough rain, I'm not going to water anything for a while. In fact, I haven't planted much, so I have to cover up what I have planted. So basically, you do the same thing. You just stick this into these plugs, and that gets you ready to go. Now, what I know, I went through this real fast, and I know you'll have to kind of try and say, what did he do next? How did he do that? Again, the pictures are good, but actually doing it or seeing it done. And I think the two most important things is getting your fold on the end of it crimped good so that it doesn't leak. If it leaks, just take it off and try to fold it a little bit tighter and put it back on there again. Or if it does leak and it's not a very big leak, put a plant right out there at the end. It'll get watered just like where all these slits are. Now, one thing that I've done this year, I put out some cabbage and some lettuce and things like that are supposedly cool season. I imagine tonight's going to test that. But I put those in the ground before I ran my drip line. Now, what would have been a better way to do it?
Put the drip line in first?
Put the drip line in first. Get it all set up. Run some water through it to see where the wet spots are. And you've got pictures in the handout to show you. Then put the plant where the water spot is, the wet spot.
Yeah.
So if it's something that you know is going to grow big, put it every other one. If it's like lettuce or cabbage, you can put it at every foot. Those slits are every foot there. So you kind of have to know how big your plant's going to go. For a tomato plant, you'd probably only want to put it about every third slit.
So you just put it along one side of the plant?
Yeah, put the plant, I generally put the tape toward the inside of the bed so that nothing blows. To blow it off, it'll have to blow it over that plant that I've put in the ground. And another thing that you can do when you put the tape out is if you want to take some clothes hangers and make little U-shaped wires, or you can go to Lowe's and buy those. You stick them down every once in a
Garden
while.
staples. Yeah,
Yep,
staples.
that's exactly what they are. Right. So that'll hold it in place. You don't have any of that stuff in Haiti. So I send them out to the bushes to cut a limb that has a fork on it, and we stick those forks upside down, hold it down until we get everything all set, and then you can put mulch on top of it, and of course it's not likely to blow away. One of the problems we had, we were at an orphanage, and there were about 15 or 20 kids there, and of course the lady that operated it had chickens, and the kids had to catch all the chickens and put them back in the pen, but the chickens were smart and they found little ways out, so we set up drip lines on 4 beds that we built. The next morning, those lines were every which way. And you saw chickens out. They were scratching in that mulch that we had put down. They were having a ball, hunting for worms and all kinds of things like that. So we had to get some little boys out there, and I gave them, I've forgotten how much for every chicken they caught and put back in. I think they hoped the chickens would get out the next day so they could get some more. I said, now, you catch the chickens and you find out where they got out. So I sat out there at the chicken coop for about 30 minutes and watched to see. And they were going all the way around to find that hole that they found the day before, I said, there's the hole. Now you get some wire and fix it. So they had a challenge of trying to get all of that prevention done.
I saw on the internet where they had containers side by side, and they put a hole in here and a hole in here, and they had the drip line going across.
They had the container filled with soil. That would work, as long as your slit was right there over the bucket part. Yeah.
And they just
Now,
had
I
them
do
side by side.
Yeah.
Would it be better to
And
have
have the
it
plants in
lower?
here?
Yeah, they had the plants
They
in
put
the
the
bucket.
plants in the buckets.
And put the drip line through like you have
So
a
the
restricted
container
bead.
grows.
Yeah.
With the drip line.
Would it
Yeah,
be better to
that
have the
would work.
drip line